Welcome to Tech Plus Java. This video is basically the continuation of microservice tutorial videos. In previous videos, we have been discussed about what is microservice and what are the advantages of microservices, what are the characteristics of microservices, what are the different design patterns we have been used in microservices, and how microservice provides you a benefit over the monolithic architecture. So all the things we have been discussed in previous tutorial videos. Now it's time to start some hands-on. So this is the first video in which we are just trying to create one demo SpringBoot project, which is basically based on microservice architecture, and try to demonstrate that how the SpringBoot provide a functionality by which we can create standalone production ready microservices using SpringBoot. So let's just start. For that I have taken. Okay, so let's just start with this. I'm going to create one new SpringBoot project. SpringBoot project can be created as in different ways. One of the way is using a Spring Initializer, and other way is basically when using the SpringBoot CLI, where from there we have been create a SpringBoot project, and or we can also create a Maven project, and where we have defined all the SpringBoot related dependencies added for creating a SpringBoot project. So I am just taking a SpringBoot Initializer and doing it from here. So that I'm just creating a SpringBoot demo project, and these are the group IDs, artifacts, and everything is there. I'm just taking a Java version as 8, and yeah, that's it. Other things are good. Now here it is asking from us to get the jars, which dependencies you want to add into our SpringBoot project. There are a number of dependencies they have been provided. Either it is based on Spring Cloud usage, SQL usage, Spring Cloud Discovery usage. So I'm just simply using Spring Web as of now. So as it's importing now the project, as you can see. Okay, now here basically there are some jar configs are there in my local. So if you have a latest version of SpringBoot and other things, you will not get that error. So to resolve this, I'm just adding this plugin. Okay, now it's being resolved. Let's see that how the structure of the project is being created by SpringBoot Initializer. This has been created as main package. That main package that has been created as one main class. Apart from that, it is being created as resource folder, where the static folder, template, and application.properties are there. There is a test folder is also created, where we can define our JUnit test cases. So this folder is having all the dependencies, dependent jars which are being imported, and apart from that there is JRE system libraries, and the target folder, which is basically for all the .class file, and there is a form.xml, because I have created a form Maven project, so it is providing me pom.xml. If you want to create a Gradle project, you can also create a Gradle project. There the build.gradle file will be created. So I'm using Maven here for demonstration. So it is created a Maven. Let's open that Maven now. If you can see that Maven, right, apart from this, every other thing is automatically created. They have been created with the parent. It is taking an artifact as a SpringBoot starter parent project, and apart from that, it is defined the artifact, group ID, version, and apart from that, there is I have added that Spring wave. Already added the SpringBoot starter wave dependency. Apart from that, automatically it has been added the test SpringBoot starter test dependency, and there is a build using SpringBoot Maven plugin. So this is overall the pom.xml file created. Now if we talk about the application.properties, this is simply a file which is where we can define the properties which is used in our project. So we will see that later in what all properties we can define over here. It is a very useful file in SpringBoot application. There is a other type of file which we can create it a .yaml file. This is basically by default it is creating application.property file. We can also create an application.yaml file. That is that file is also we can use as a properties file. In place of defining the properties over here, we can define the application.yaml file. So let's now see that what is created in. So this is the main class where it is being created as one main method, and in that main method it is using the springboot.run and passing that application name and argument. This is basically the key line, which is basically calling all the configurations, and SpringBoot started the deployment and other things being started by this line. And this is basically a default annotation which is provided when we are defining a SpringBoot application. This annotation is basically a combination of 3 annotations. If we go inside this, then see, now we can see that this annotation is basically providing a component scan and auto configuration and SpringBoot configuration. So SpringBoot configuration is nothing, just a configuration. So it is basically providing a 3 type of a combination of 3 annotations. One is configuration, but it is enable auto configuration, and it's component scan. If we go inside this, you can see that this is providing this. All other things are related to the annotation file. So this is the main annotation. So that is the configuration, and here there is a enable auto configuration and component scan. So SpringBoot application is basically the combination of 3 annotations. This is basically configuration plus component scan plus enable auto configurations. So configuration is simply a stereotype annotation, a Spring stereotype annotation, which is basically telling that whenever we are defining annotating any class with Spring configuration, that means it should be treated as a Spring beans, and it will be loaded by application context. And at the rate component scan, in this basically we are defining the package, root package. From that all the classes within the package will be eligible for the configuration. And this enable auto configuration is basically enabling other configurations, which is basically provided by SpringBoot. So that will loading all the other configuration which is required to run the SpringBoot application. So why we are using SpringBoot application for creating a Spring microservices? So basically SpringBoot provide a flexibility of creating a project which is basically production ready. It's provided, it's provided a structure within a minute, and by this we can define our business logic classes and define the code, and it is simply useful for deployment, and we can simply deploy and use it. I'll see that how we can do this. So this is a definition for @SpringBoot application annotation. Okay, now if you will run this code simply, okay, so if you can see that it started the SpringBoot demo application, then there is SpringBoot provided a auto internal tomcat, which is basically run with the enable auto configuration, and it is by default deploying on 8080 tomcat port, and message showing that your application is being deployed successfully and is started. Now I'm just trying to stop this as of now. Okay, now suppose I am going to create one controller class to demonstrate you better how it is providing a production ready project. So I am just creating a demo controller, and I am just using @REST controller for defining one REST API, which is nothing but just used to print something on browser. So I'm just using this get message. It will simply return the hello text Java or inbuild microservice done. That's here I have defined just a one REST controller class, and that class we are just defining one get mapping and get API. I hope all of you are knowing about that REST API thing, and if you are not knowing about that, we will create one more video for demonstrating how we can create a REST API. So this is a REST controller we have been created, annotated with this demo controller class, and we have created one method which is basically providing a string and annotated with get mapping, and here we need to define some URL. So I'm just taking a URI as /message. Okay. Now I'm just going to start this application again. Okay, so here we can see that it is started now at 8080 port. Okay, so now we are going to say http://localhost/8080/ we have taken this URL. Oh, now we can see that when we are passing this slash message, it is calling our API, and our API is basically returning this message, as you can see in this, right? So this way, this is a whole application. We can deploy this in production mode, and it is ready for the use. So a Spring Boot functionality, or we can say the Spring Boot advantage, is it provides production ready services, a production ready project within a minute. So structure, we don't need to define it, it's already been defined. We just need to create some classes whichever we want, and do some business logic in that, and that's it for this. It is provided internal tomcat server also for demonstrating this. So this is also for demo application in Spring Boot. This is one of the we can say that microservice, which is basically deployed on port 8080, and which we can use. So this is a simple demo project and demonstration for how we can create a Spring Boot project, and how we can define our REST APIs in that and behave like a Spring Boot microservice, and how we can run that and get that result. That's it for this video. In another video, we will see that how we can do the changes in this application.property file, and how this application.property file being useful to make the changes or define some properties for this project. So that's it for this video. Thank you for joining. If you like this video, please subscribe my channel and comment out